We are joined by Bill King from Nashville Sports Radio, morning host 6 to 9, the king of college football talk. Give him a follow on Twitter at BillIsKing. Bill, what's new outside Nashville today? You doing all right?
I think a rare thing is occurring. There's about to be a 3-game event between Vanderbilt and Tennessee, which probably hasn't been publicized in any sport in recent history between those two, particularly since the Titans got to town 20-plus years ago. And this 3-game series coming up at Vanderbilt might be the best series in college baseball this year.
And it'll be one of the only. I mean, it's the only sport where the Tennessee fans don't completely swallow up Vanderbilt's own facility in this case. Because I've seen Tennessee and Vanderbilt football. I stayed in the hotel, that Marriott, the weekend that they had a game there, and it was, embarrassing. It was a home game for Tennessee. This is different, and this is like Arkansas plays Mississippi State. That's a great series this weekend.
Oh yeah,
there are other good weekend series, but I think Vandy and Tennessee are at the top of the list. Tennessee right now is a juggernaut. I mean, they've hit
number one.
I think they've hit close to 50 home runs, if not more. They got a couple of guys that are throwing 100 miles an hour. One pitcher throwing 104. They just swept Ole Miss when they were number one. And, this all happened fast over 2 years, and now they're trying to overtake Vanderbilt.
2 true freshmen in their starting 3. True freshmen. The first one, Chase Burns, high 90s guy. Blake Tidwell hasn't even pitched yet. He's been having arm problems. He's considered their veteran ace. And they've got freshmen hitting up and down the lineup. They've got 64 home runs in 24 games,
wow.
Which I don't even know if this is right or not, but I saw a stat that said it's on pace to eclipse, at this rate, the LSU 87 team. Now, again, this is March, almost April, so who knows. But they're having fun, man. And Tony Vols, he's making over $1 million. He's got a Maserati. He's single. I think a lot of guys right now would switch places with Tony Vols.
He had the Maserati when he was the top assistant here. I remember seeing him driving away. He's had that thing for a long time. Tony's awesome, and I think Razorback fans still have a little bit of the anger about the face-to-face with Van Horn last year, but I'd look at Tony Vitello, and this is an absolutely incredible coach. But Vanderbilt is still like the blue blood. Like, this should be reversed. Like, did I see Danny White refer to on Twitter? Somebody said they got to do something about the ballpark, and he said it's on the way. So it made me think that Tennessee is thinking about either a refurbishing of Lindsey Nelson Stadium or building a new ballpark some way. But that's the next step for that program. I'm just shocked that they are where they are with the facility that they have right now.
Yeah, it's not very good. Now, there's 2 options, and I don't really know where it's at. It's doing something with Lindsey Nelson, or there's a brand new one going up in downtown Knoxville for the minor league team.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the relationship would be to share it with the city. You know, I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe you play choice games there or something. Who knows? But no, they're going to take care of this guy. You have to do what this guy wants you to do. He's the best coach on that campus. He's probably the best coach on that campus since Pat Summitt.
Yeah, he really has turned around the program. I remember, when I was in high school, this has been, 2012, 2013. We played a weekend deal, a showcase tournament up there, and it's completely different from what it was then. And back then, Tennessee wasn't really looked at as a great program, but now it's building momentum on the baseball side to kind of help keep that momentum going. Do you think Tennessee baseball should do kind of what football used to do, back in the day and play games at different cities around the state, play at Lookout Stadium in Chat, maybe come over to the west side of the state, play at AutoZone Park in Memphis? Like, do you think that would help build the popularity and ultimately, be a valid thing for Tennessee?
I don't know what Tony thinks about that. It certainly would be good PR and good for the state and good for relationships there. And certainly if you're Tennessee, you're not afraid to play at these games. If you're halfway right, they can't beat you. So I don't know. That's always a good a good citizenship thing to do, but I don't know what their future scheduling looks like.
Well, Bill, we do have you. You are the college football expert, and obviously going to want to talk college football with you. And we had Coach Sam Pittman on yesterday, and one of the biggest things that he talked about was using backup quarterback Malik Hornsby at the wide receiver spot, and kind of have some different packages for him. How much do you think that will open up the Arkansas offense, and does that change how you view the outcome of next season for the Hogs?
No, not really. You want to get your best athletes on the field, and if he can't be the quarterback, you want to get him out there and get him some touches. I think Alabama is looking to do that, too, with a young redshirt freshman quarterback that projects as any number of things. Now, if they sign Ty Simpson, they may get Arch Manning. So that's a point. I've seen a lot of coaches talk about this, doing something like that, or playing a guy on receiver and he's a DB, but he's so good, and then they don't do it. So be careful with that. And I like Sam Pittman a lot, but coaches talk about all these wrinkles they may do. They get into the real game time situations and they clam up a little bit. So I want to see it, but I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
We also talked a little bit with Coach Pittman yesterday, Bill, about, this is going to be his 36th season as a college football coach. And
wow.
NIL is obviously the major difference, between now and then, at least when it comes to off-field and social media too, but NIL goes along with that. I don't want to talk about the NIL aspect of this. It's more about Coach Pittman's personality and the way that he speaks, because, we've had a coach here in Brett Bielema that really did like to poke the bear as much as he could when he was given the opportunity, and I see this back and forth between Lane Kiffin and Jimbo Fisher about who deserves respect for recruiting classes against NIL and all this kind of stuff. And Jimbo was all pissed about it. And Kiffin's like, look, this is the way that it is. And, Sam Pittman doesn't say anything like that. He doesn't go after any coach. Even when it comes to, Ole Miss faking injuries, he doesn't go at anybody like that. He is... I'm not going to say he's respectful to a fault, but it is in his DNA to just remain respectful in public speaking at all times. You can't say that about every coach.
He's old school in a lot of ways, and old school in a lot of good ways. I enjoy that style of football. If you can be that physical and win, I love that style of football.
What side do you come on?
Yeah, he's not going to be a guy that through social media or on a microphone is going to pop off about anybody. That's not his style. That's not how he got where he is today. And look, some of my favorite moments is with Steve Spurrier or a Mike Leach or Lane Kiffin. I like all that stuff too, but you can't fake that. Either you've got that in your DNA or you don't. And Sam Pittman, he wasn't born into that world. That's not what he does.
But he's smart about how to answer a question. The way that journalists and reporters will ask questions sometimes is they're looking to get the soundbite that gets splashed across social media and becomes quote-unquote bulletin board material for somebody. I don't remember the name of the player. I think it was a Duke player after they beat Arkansas and go to the Final Four. And Tracy Wolfson asks about playing against you. Would you rather play North Carolina or St. Peter's? And he says, you're not going to get me. He said, you're not going to get me on that. Sam Pittman says you're not going to get me just by answering the question the way that he does.
Right. That's a sharp kid if he's already that far along to answer it like that. That's pretty good. Most kids would not have the poise to respond like that. No,
they would say give me North Carolina, which I really think that's probably what those Duke players were thinking.
Right. I agree.
Well, Bill, just mentioned that Sam Pittman's 3+ decades in sports and first head coaching opportunity being with Arkansas and has knocked it out of the park. Is there anybody else, a longtime position coach around the SEC that you wish would get a shot, or somebody that comes to mind from years past that you thought that if they would have ever gotten the opportunity, they would have knocked it out of the park like Sam Pittman is?
Well, I'm not comparing exactly. Brent Venables waited a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's had to wait a long time. Anybody, all those years, John Chavis was at Tennessee and he was at LSU. I remember he was at A&M. He coached probably 30+ years since the late 70s. He never got a shot, and I don't think he would have been a good head coach, but he's a guy that had been around a long, long time. Can't say Kevin Steele because he had the Baylor job. It didn't turn out well, but Kevin's had his moments and has been a really good coordinator now down at Miami. So those are a couple. Who's I can't think. The long time I'm a big fan is Beamer, defensive coordinator for all those decades, and he retired a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah,
there's another one. I'm not thinking of the name right now.
Bill, you mentioned John Chavis' name there. Did you see he's a defensive coordinator now for a USFL team? He went from Arkansas to middle school to the USFL. This is an interesting career path, I guess, as he's winding things down.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
He's the DC for Birmingham in the USFL, which I'll be ignoring, and I imagine you probably will ignore the USFL too.
Well, and David Cutcliffe, longtime assistant offensive coordinator at Tennessee, and then Ole Miss, and back to Tennessee. Duke just got hired by the SEC office. So those guys, Chavis and Cutcliffe, are boys. Those guys have been together all through those years.
What do you think? We talked a little bit about Cutcliffe in this role in the SEC. It seems to me he's a communicator, I think, for Greg Sankey to the coaches in the league. What do you expect out of his role? Because he's supposed to help, I think, evaluate rules and scheduling and competition. So what do you expect out of this?
I really don't know. Obviously, Sankey wants to get a football guy as a voice and a conduit to the football guy, the coaches, the head coaches, etc. And they all know Cut. Cut's a long-time veteran. He's respected. Now, he's also, I've had a lot of run-ins with Cut. He's also very thin-skinned, but this job won't require any of that. And I think that's a good thing. Cut is a pure football guy. So from that perspective, I think this is probably a good one.
We're finally here. The top teams in college basketball have been determined, and the Final Four is set. Looking to wager on these games or the national championship? Head over to betonline.ag on your desktop or your mobile device and sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV to get started. That's BLEAV. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all your updated odds and info, along with player props and new contests throughout the year. It's the best source for all your sporting wagering needs, including live betting and everyone's favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so join today. Learn why everyone is saying BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.